If you can't handle people poking fun at America, you're certainly not going to enjoy America, the Motion Picture. This animated Netflix satire arrives just in time for the United States' Independence Day. So should you watch? A chainsaw-wielding George Washington teams with beer-loving bro Sam Adams to take down the Brits in a tongue-in-cheek riff on the American Revolution. Okay, so this is certainly a different take on American history. I mean, many liberties are taken in how the story of the fight against British rule went down. And this isn't meant to be a history lesson, but more a satirical look at some of the country's ideals or the ideals on which it was founded, and the ideals that are even now widely held. The animation is wonderful to look at. I loved the thick black lines that are used to give the characters more definition. And if you've seen the animated show Archer, this shares some of the similar art styles that give it a comic book feel, which kind of makes sense too because the creators of Archer are involved in this as well. The entire thing is very irreverent and is most likely going to offend you at some point. And I think the goal of the show was, in one sense, to put in enough to make you laugh, but also make you cringe at some point or even take issue with what's being shown. Something that I really appreciate and like about this is how much the movie is making fun of the bro attitude of America. The movie highly illustrates how people have these nationalistic views and hold the nation up as a pinnacle of everything good and worthwhile, but at the same time are wildly ignorant of facts and timelines. Now, as much as I enjoyed how it makes fun, I was a little dismayed that some of the satire also then diminishes some of its own punch. There's a point where a character is clearly a racist and is being called out for being so, but then a joke is made that minimizes the fact that racism is deplorable. And this becomes an ongoing joke, and to me it seemed to be less impactful as the movie went along. Now, the voice cast is stacked with talent. We have Channing Tatum, Simon Pegg, Killer Mike, Olivia Munn, Raoul Max Trujillo, Bobby Moynihan, Jason Mantzoukas, Andy Samberg, Will Forte, and Judy Greer. And some of the dialogue is really pointed and is actually quite witty. There are so many small parts that inject biting commentary about injustices and ideals. Some of the moments that when the characters meet Geronimo, or as they discuss the outcome of Vietnam, or even a conversation Thomas Edison has with Paul Revere, each work to point out cultural norms that need to be made fun of. And there's so much ridiculousness in this. Each situation continues to build on the last, combining just all sorts of historical and pop culture references to create a mashup of historical inaccuracies, which are also fun. And the movie is very self-aware, and it's really funny as the film uses a lot of sight gags, giving it kind of that Naked Gun feel at times. When Simon Pegg's character of King James is on screen, the film plays up heavily on Pegg's love for Star Wars. There are scenes that emulate the Emperor, Darth Vader, and even multiple sequences from The Empire Strikes Back. There are also other callouts to stories like The Lord of the Rings, RoboCop, Hot Rod, Doctor Strangelove, and even Avengers: Infinity War. And as fun as the references are and as crazy as all the mashup of historical timelines make the film, this will probably polarize a lot of viewers. If you don't like crude and crass dialogue, this will certainly not be something that you're into. There is a massive amount of profanity, and most of the time, it's not even for an effect. The dialogue inserts expletives as a replacement for most adjectives, making it a little tired as the movie went along. The humor can also be categorized as mainly juvenile, but that works in line with the satire, especially when the messages are pointed at the bro mentality where ignorance rules. Now, the movie is 98 minutes and it moves along pretty efficiently. And because this is basically short attention span theater, the quick scene changes help to keep everything progressing in a quick manner. At the end of this, I had fun, but I'm also a bit conflicted because I'm not absolutely sure what the story was trying to convey. There are many points that lead me to believe that it really is calling out the injustices and shortcomings that have occurred in the nation's growth, but at the same time, I feel that in some cases it may actually be more condoning than condemning of those injustices just based on how it chooses the laugh over everything else. Overall, this is entertaining, but it's not something that I'm going to revisit. I laughed and cringed as it went along, but I also did get a little tired of the continuous expletive-filled dialogue. The voice cast is wonderful and works well together to build out some pretty funny exchanges. There's sex, nudity, a ton of profanity, and a lot of bloody and gory violence. I give America, the Motion Picture, 3.5 out of 5 couches. So is this a movie you've been looking forward to seeing? I'm really curious about your take on this, especially if you live outside the US, just so I can kind of get a worldwide perspective of the movie. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.